The bill is the money in their system. It's a backwards debt-based system. So we're taking their system, flipping it back on them based on 4 agendas. And the 4 agendas are really one agenda, but they come in 4 flavors. And that's the geoengineering, which most of you are here about, vaccines, 5G, and the smart meters. Once we had the automated builder, we now had the capacity to bill continuously. Well, that changed everything. Now we have the opportunity to bill all the money, and I'm just going to blurt it out. I know it sounds silly. We have the ability now to bill all of the current value out of the current system. The potential is there. We now can do the exact same thing that they're doing. We're creating bills of exchange, and we don't have to collect actual US dollars or Canadian dollars or Australian dollars. The bill is the money in their system.
All right, so we just want to welcome everyone here. Before we hit the recording button, I was just having just sharing from the heart with all of the leaders that are on this call. This is I'll just do a quick share screen here and quickly intro, and we'll get right to the point of this timely and urgent call. This is a world. Can you guys see this okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Screen. Worldwide town hall meeting on geoengineering and a mass action of liability with Cal Washington of the InPower Movement. And it's a strategic leadership call about addressing the critical geoengineering problem at the root, especially in light of the situation in Texas. Cal from InPower is going to present on the new Notice of Liability process, now customized for geoengineering and available for anyone in the US and Canada to participate. And so they have InPower as a private members organization, private membership organization. And Cal will tell you more about the background, about how it works and why it works and results so far and what's coming up, and about the nature, even on the higher, we'll get into spiritual jurisdictions too here, I think, the higher jurisdictions of like what's happening and why it's happening right now. And as Stanton, who I believe is going to be on this call, Stanton Hum, shared in his Instagram post today on this with his clip with Cal, we are all being called to remember who we really are at this point and to embody more of the soul essence or of the power or just our true selves and just come into our own aligned power. So if I could, I'm not part of the InPower organization at this time, having had a hand in co-founding it with Cal, but if I could speak to that organization, the integrity that I've seen in that organization and the heart and the mission, it's all about coming into alignment with true power and remembering who we are. And we have seen mountains move pretty much, I don't know if I want to say literally, but we've seen some really, really interesting things happen when we do that, and especially within the InPower organization, using the specific process of the Notice of Liability as like a token, a physical thing in the real world. So this meeting is being recorded, as mentioned, and there is the email for InPower. Raynette, I will send you a message after this with my personal email as well. But so if you have, so most people on this call live have my text or my Telegram. Let me know if you want a copy of this and to share it after this recording. So the intention, once again, is a 60-minute call. The idea is going to be, let's see if we can limit this to 60 minutes, and then brainstorming, reflections, questions to follow for those who can stay on. So without any further ado, is Matt on the call?
I'm
Matt
over
is,
here.
okay,
It's just
awesome.
Ma Road.
Ma Road. That sounds really esoteric, higher dimensional. That's your higher dimensional name. Matt, are you prepared? Could you do like a 2 or 3 minute share with screens if you can on what's happening with the geoengineering issue? Because Matt, you have your Cultivate Elevate on Instagram. You have more than 300,000 followers. You're one of the leaders that is focusing on the aspect of connecting the dots behind the scenes, and you do a brilliant job. So before we get into Cal's presentation, which may be 45 minutes-ish, could you bring us up to speed with what you can tell us, what's happening in Texas and how the dots are connecting in a couple minutes, if you could?
Yeah, of course. And I won't share my screen because my computer will probably overheat because it's 117 here. So otherwise it'll be done. But what's going on in Texas is there's a lot of flooding. Everybody sees that going on. There's also some flooding going on in New Mexico. There's also some flooding going on in Ohio, and there's also some flooding going on in North Carolina all at the same time. So it seems like we have some geoengineering, weather modification, where they spray the skies, they use the towers, they dam up the skies, and they create a great flood right on that area. And when you go and you investigate this whole Texas situation, you go to the Texas homepage and you go to, I think it's texas.gov/weather, and they have weather modification right on the homepage. Like they are completely open, transparent that they are doing weather modification in Texas. And when I looked at the areas in which were affected by these floods, it was the same areas in which the weather modification plans are taking place. The company that is doing this, if you're going to go into the notice of liability of who you're going to send these to, it's called Rainmaker LLC. And it's actually a young kid who runs that one. He's a scummy kid who did a whole bunch of interviews about how he said we can make it rain and whatever else. And he just, I believe, got a $200 million or something from Palantir. So this had just happened. The days that they did the cloud seeding is the days that it flooded, and then a couple days later. And so now, once again, they're saying that it's not weather modification, according to the news, even though you go onto the Texas website and you just see weather modification. And what's interesting is the people who approve the weather modification plans for this Rainmaker company, that was the Department of Commerce. And the Department of Commerce backs all the federal weather modification plans. So they have to get approved by the Department of Commerce before they can start going up there and doing whatever they're doing with their chemicals and whatever else. So with that, they basically flooded out this town. The waters rose very quickly. The people didn't know. And this seems to be the theme now. They're not going to inform people. They're not going to tell people. It doesn't seem to be of a, where they're going to try to give you a hint. Things are just going to happen. So people have to be aware of this. Now, on the flip side, people can look into the orgone donor with Mitch. Mitch is doing a lot to try to counter all this nonsense with orgone and orgone pucks and things like that. But yeah, that's the website right there. It says Texas Weather Modification. It's the department. They issue the licenses to the companies in order for them to do this. And when I was looking up weather modification in Texas, it dates back to almost the 1900s. So they've been doing this for a very long period of time. They've been experimenting and trying to do whatever and make it rain and whatever. And we saw the same thing in North Carolina. We saw the same thing with the Palisade fires, the Hawaiian fires. They're just trying to do different energy events and all of these things to not only steal our energy, but also put us into chaos so that we don't think. But with the counters, people can look into the work of Mitch, the orgone donor. They can look into Wilhelm Reich with Cloudbusters. And can also look into the work of Trevor James Constable, Loom of the Future, which is a phenomenal book on what the government was doing in the 1980s and what I believe they're still doing in 2025.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Matt. I just want to say, if you have any questions at this time or during Cal's presentation, just put them in the chat, and then we'll save them for the end, and then we'll dive in as questions will inevitably come up. Yeah, is there any other points, maybe getting into higher aspects or deeper aspects that you want to quickly touch on, Matt, or do you feel that would suffice, and should we move to Cal?
Yeah, I mean, all of these events, I've covered a lot of them, and even me and Renette have made, I don't know how many videos on every single event which takes place and whatever. But, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to weaken us, and they're trying to control us. And they're trying to push us into a state of fear where they think that they own us. And in reality, I've realized we own them. So we have to look at these things. These people work for us. And I think that a lot of times we forget that, we lose that, we've been pushed down and beaten up and whatever else. But in reality, they work for us. So we have to be aware of that. And I think that with the notice of liabilities and you guys start issuing things and this starts to get out as well, that can also be a solution. But they're going to keep trying to do a lot of nonsense, you know, because they even have like that SPARS pandemic 2025 to 2028 planned and things like that. So they're going to try to orchestrate a lot. And we just have to be aware that every single time these events come up, we have to band together, we have to love one another, and we have to learn to move forward and figure out solutions rather than just sitting here and being like, well, my town is flooded. Because even in North Carolina, people got together and they were helping one another and they all rebuilt their town. So that builds, you know, community and people together. And I think that's important. And everybody in this chat or in the Zoom thing, whatever it is all the same thing. It's all the same exact wavelength. And that wavelength, I think, is growing. And people are over it because they're sick of being lied to. And that's just kind of how I see it.
Yeah, very good. Thanks for that, Matt. Very, very well said. Before we throw it over to Cal, I just want to say, if anyone has any other thoughts about the geoengineering issue or any other data points or research that you've done, just drop it in the chat. We can have a conversation going on there as Cal is presenting. Although there's probably going to come a point where, you know, you're going to want to focus your attention fully on what Cal is presenting because it is very powerful. So with that, Matt, thank you. And Cal, take it away. Cal, do you want to do this as far as a question answer kind of a thing where I'm interviewing you, or do you just want to speak for 45 minutes ish?
It's up to you. You know, I can do it either way.
Okay.
I'd like to, you know, just go on what
Yep.
Ma brought up. The whole community thing. It's my contention. I'm just going to blurt it out that it's become transactional, and we need to be more relational. You know, like a community. Our vision here is to have everybody in one big thing. And I know it sounds like centralizing, but we will get way more people involved if we all work together and have one big thing. And we're not after members for the sake of members or money for the sake of money. We're literally trying to get as many people to do this document as we can, because as you'll see, this can change the whole monetary system completely. And when you understand that, then the current monetary system becomes like, why are we even dabbling with that? Let's just move on. Because I can tell you, they cannot change any weather without money being involved. He just said it. He got a $2 million grant. There's the money. Try and get a kid for all the dastardly deeds they do. Money. Try and start a war. Money. How do you get a judge to go your way in a court? Money. How do you get the right politicians to vote for your agenda? Money. It's money, 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 money. We have to get the money from these reprobates. They are just printing money out of nothing. It's just pieces of paper or digits now in a computer. And we all believe it has some kind of value. And then we want to have, I'm going to promote your thing if you give me some of those things that those guys are controlling us all with. And so we're trying to get away from that. We want to be able to just everybody help each other so that the people out there who are just floundering around trying to figure out what's going on they can see something that's moving in a very large way. Okay, I can get on that, and it's inexpensive. To join every group here, most people can't do it. It costs too much. So they got to choose one. And they don't get the information from the other. So that's why we want to share your information and you share ours. And it's not about trying to make money off of our email list.
Thanks for that. Thank you for that, Cal. Like, that makes so much sense, and I appreciate that, helping to reframe that. So this is my sharing page on InPower Movement, and any leader can have your own, and Dave can set this up in like half a day. As I'm currently a liaison with InPower, just message me if you want your own page. This is InPower Movement .org/Josh. If you're watching the replay, this is a link that you can go to save the $50 on membership from $150 a year to $100 a year. As you can see, it's not about money. And become a member and get on the email list, become a member, and then do the document process with full support. Cal's going to talk about how that works. So InPowerMovement.org / for the leaders on the call, your name or whatever you want your link to be, and then you send people to that, and we can get everybody going together on this. So
Yes.
Cal, thanks for that. All right, take it away.
I just want to make sure that's clear, that we're not trying to be difficult or anything like that. But so the notice of liability, for who doesn't know about the notice of liability, just put your hand up so you all kind of know a little bit about it. Okay, so I don't have to go into what it is. So let's just get into where we're at this point. We put the document out for free. That was our initial goal. That's back when Josh was still here. We literally put it out for free. A Word document, here, fill this out, and then we help people. It wasn't ever about making money. What happened was all kinds of nonsense, and we had to rethink that approach because people were abusing it, changing the document so that others came after them had changed. No, we weren't expecting all this behavior. So we had to actually rethink this. People were getting in trouble with the law, et cetera, because they were using it where it wasn't supposed to be used. So we had to take some responsibility, and we shut down for quite a few years. And now we've been up running again for now about 2 years, 2.5 maybe. And we've seen some amazing results. So now we have an automated builder, so people don't have to fill it out themselves. It's literally emailed to you. All you have to do now is put your signature on there, your witnesses, and your notary, and everything's taken care of. We're tracking every respondent, and we vet them before they go into the database to make sure you're not sending to somebody you're not supposed to be sending to, because this document is very powerful, and you can get yourself in trouble by sending this type of document. It's called paper terrorism. So because of the power of it. So we have a lot of fail safes in there, but we have to have some, accountability and make sure that the document is going out the way we send it out. And then we have, terms of agreement and all kinds of stuff to go along with that. That wasn't our heart. We were just trying to do the right thing, but it turns out we had to do it this way. In that, things changed. The path opened up, where now we have continuous billing. That was not really on our list. We weren't sure what we were going to do, as far as we were just going to get people to one bill that was cured. So one cured bill was our goal, which was 9 rounds. It took 9 months to get there. Once we had the automated builder, we now had the capacity to bill continuously. Well, that changed everything. Now we have the opportunity to bill all the money, and I'm just going to blurt it out. I know it sounds silly. We have the ability now to bill all of the current value out of the current system. The potential is there. Because all the money, say 90% of the money that's available out in the marketplace or in the world is based on bills of exchange and promissory notes. They are just promises to pay. They're these old, ancient, negotiable instruments. They have no value. As of about 100 years ago in 1933, they took all those off, where they don't have to pay. They can just keep printing these things out, and we keep spending them because we believe in them. We were born into this, and we don't see it for what it is. We can't rise up above in order to see it. So that said, we now can do the exact same thing that they're doing. We're creating bills of exchange, and we don't have to collect actual US dollars or Canadian dollars or Australian dollars. The bill is the money in their system. It's a backwards debt-based system. So we're taking their system, flipping it back on them based on 4 agendas. And the 4 agendas are really one agenda, but they come in 4 flavors. And that's the geoengineering, which most of you are here about, vaccines, 5G, and the smart meters. So the fires that Ma talked about, the smart meters, we suspected this, but on the last fires, it became very clear that the smart meter is a targeting device because they can burn one house completely to white dust and leave the next house completely untouched and the next house white dust again. And that's not a natural fire. So these things are all related. So the weather modification is just another aspect of the same thing. But people can't see that because it's so big. And so we broke it into 4, and then we've done it a customized document for each country in the 4 agendas. So US and Canada have all 4. Australia has 3. We have the geoengineering one coming out in the next probably month or so. It's ready, but we're doing an upgrade on all of them. And other countries have 1 or 2 available. But US and Canada, we do have the geoengineering as of this year. So that we finally got that one out. On the vaccine, we saw a lot of people step down worldwide, and some notable people. You saw it in the news, but you didn't know that they were getting this document. And because they obviously don't say that. But Rochelle Walensky, head of the CDC, various governors in the United States, 3 premiers in Australia, and a previous prime minister, and the Queen of Denmark all got documents, and they all stepped down mysteriously. If you go back and read, it's all like very quick. A couple of them were like in 15 minutes notice, I'm out of here. And something, they don't say what it is, but there's a catalyst there to make somebody move like that in that short a period of time. And they happen to get one of our, well, actually more than one of our documents. So we've got a lot of that happening, and we're currently, Jimmy, what are we up to in bills of exchange?
It was 34 billion.
34 billion USD in bills of exchange, with about 300 or 400 people sending at the most.
Wow.
And so if you just do the numbers, if you just added a 0 and we had 4,000 people, now we're into 340 billion. Add another 0, and you can see that it doesn't take a lot of people to create a massive amount of wealth. And this wealth does not have to be collected. And I'll just kind of show you that.
Cal,
Because of this,
I just want to jump in here and say I just posted into the chat a list that David sent me before the call of people that have, again, like, you're not claiming directly, but it's a list of coincidences that people step down after being held liable. And there's, what is there, about 18 or 20 on that list? There's more beyond that list, but those are just some of the interesting ones. So you can kind of see that, the coincidences kind of start to add up after a while, that people don't want the liability because they're being held liable as men and women, correct, Cal? We're not doing this within the legal or corporate jurisdiction where they can pass whatever law and grant themselves immunity or whatever, right? It's above that, yeah? So I just wanted to touch on that there's really powerful list of respondents that have stepped down after being held liable by your process.
yeah.
And
we
I'll say this, sorry, one last thing, and I'll shut up. When we first started doing this process in 2014, everybody kept their analog meter. Everybody who did this process and their neighbors and everyone else around them was getting smart metered, but the people who did this process kept their analog meter. And that, for me, that was the first proof of concept that you guys have since continued to roll with these past number of years. And now it's at this threshold place. So yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, so we started with the smart meters and then moved to we started writing the 5G one. And part of the 5G, as we're doing the research, is this thing called Internet of Bodies. And it's a real thing. There's an IEEE designation. We've got it all in our documents. We did all tons of research. We got way more research than can go in the document. We have a ton of stuff. And so what the part of the Internet of Bodies was there was, 3 or 4 different ways they were going to get us hooked up to the internet. And one of the candidates for it was vaccine. And that's when COVID hit while we were doing the research. And we went, there it is. They're going with vaccine because they just started the whole, people were falling and all that stuff that happened and the toilet paper disappearing and all the tricks they did. And sure enough, within a year and a half, they had a vaccine ready, and we all know what happened with that. But that's all part of. See, you can see that the 5G and the vaccine are related to each other because they got to have particles in our body in order to in order for us to be hooked up to the internet in a more mass sense. They can do targeted voice to skull. That technology's been around for a long time, but in order to hook up everybody so that you can monitor them, 24/7, you've got to have something on them or in their clothing or in them or in them. And they chose in them. So they've been spraying in the air. That was also to get particles into our bodies. And it does a couple of things. It puts particles all over the ground like aluminum. And if you stick aluminum in a microwave, you instantly get a fire. And so all they got to do is create a microwave situation, which is what 5G does. And you've got these so-called wildfires. If you want to target a town, then you've got the smart meters as your targeting device. And so they got rid of Lytton in my province here. It's a town of about 250 people because a doctor who was in on the shots started to notice because the town is so small, it's like a petri dish. He's going, I gave that guy a shot 2 days ago, and now there's a problem. I gave that lady a shot last Thursday, and I'm seeing a problem. So he started writing in. I said, I think there's a problem here. And of course, they ignored him, and then he got stronger and stronger. They burnt the town down.
Oh,
And so this is what happens in Travis County, Texas. A friend of mine, some of you may know him, Govinda just did a process on the birth certificate and got the world system all the way up to the Vatican and the Crown and Trump and everybody got their underwear in a knot.
huh.
Then they flood Travis County. This is what's going on. So we're in that kind of battle, and we had just recently we had a bunch of people in Montreal arrested, some of our members, for sending a document to a previous lieutenant governor, which would be like your governor in the United States. And he stepped down. He's another one that stepped down, but they started sending to his house because the document follows the person even if they leave their position. So that's another
Follows the
thing we have. What's that? Yeah. So anyway, this lieutenant governor was the head of the Law Society in Quebec. He was Jesuit Knight of the Order of blah, 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 blah. And he had medals from this and that, and the Queen's this. He was Queen's Bench, on and on and on. This guy was an insider's insider, and he pulled all his strings, got the RCMP to do a sting on 3 of our members, 2 ladies and a man, and then another guy was turned himself in because they asked him to. They were all summoned to court. Um, they were arrested on February 28th, and their court appearance was April the 28th, which was a Monday, which was our voting day. And on the Friday, they phoned everybody and said, we're not proceeding. So that shows they couldn't proceed because they couldn't get because we're using their system against them in a very clean and thoughtful and deep way. They really didn't want, they couldn't have this in open court because they would have set a precedent and they would have lost.
Cal,
So they,
I just want to jump in here. That's really significant because that shows that all they really have is a feint or a poker play, and then they want to intimidate. And but if people don't back down using your process, they just drop everything. They run away. Like you said, the Friday before the case was supposed to, the hearing was supposed to be on a Monday, right? On the Friday before, 3 months after the arrest, right? They say we're not proceeding. So
yeah,
I just want to like touch on that because it connects a couple of dots for me, and I think for a lot of people. One is the fear of repercussion. Well, what happens if I really show up and I play a bigger game? Whether it's this process and deciding, you know what, I'm going to stand for life, and I'm going to stand against the harm, and I'm going to just reflect back, offer the reflection, and hold liable those who are most responsible. Because I think at a deep level, they want it. They want to be corrected at a deeper level. This is getting into higher jurisdictions, but we all come from the same source, right? And there may or may not be other beings or races here. I don't know. That's not the point. But this process of coming and walking through the fear, if all they have is the threat of intimidation, and Cal, you went through that. You were in jail for 60 days a couple decades ago, and you came out with a $200 million agreement, a verbal contract with the judge that then you used to leverage that and then basically default the whole system. And so now you have actually the authority because you went from the provincial level to the federal level in Canada to the Queen of England. You went through the steps to default the system. That's why, in my view, I've seen this for 11 years now, since we started doing this 2014. You have, and this process has a certain authority on it that
absolutely,
they can't shut you down without your consent or without self-sabotaging or whatever they try to get us to do to ourselves. So this is directly tying into our process of remembering who we really are,
exactly.
And I've been struggling with that. It's a struggle for us all to come out of this fear, but to recognize that, wow, all they have is a threat. All they can do is arrest and then not proceed even with that because they won't win. I mean, that's very powerful. I just want to touch on that. That's bringing us deeper.
Yeah, we've had numerous, and we still get letters from lawyers. And most people, when they see a letter from a lawyer, they panic. We usually write them back once, and we don't hear from them again. They fire themselves or they like get out of the way because they're stuck with information that they weren't shown at law school. And it has to do with this ancient jurisdiction called law merchant. They've turned us all into law merchants with the birth certificate or into merchants, and we don't understand that. So once you understand it and you operate in it, there's nothing they can do because the system is built upon it. It's the foundation of their whole system. They can't have this in court. It reveals everything. And so we're operating at that kind of level, and there's nothing they can do about it. And we're following really, we're following this. Revelation 18 and verse 6. So there's a voice from heaven saying, come out of her so that you don't receive part of her, particulars of her sins. And sins can be translated as debts. And you receive not of her plagues. And then reward her as she was reward you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the very cup that she has filled, fill to her double. That's what we're doing. We're taking their cup, and you drink of it now, and they have to drink. And so it's happening on a very deep level, what we're doing here. And all we need is enough people to do this. And instead of having, a handful of quadrillionaires and a whole bunch of billionaires and X amount of millionaires, we can distribute the wealth back to the people as they create bills of exchange. So bills of exchange, I got to explain this, otherwise you're gonna have a big hole. So this is a federal act in Canada. And here's the definition of money. Money includes negotiable instruments. The very next definition is what a negotiable instruments. Now, negotiable instruments are money, and it includes check, we've heard of, drafts, we've heard of, traveler's check, we've heard of, bill of exchange, we have not heard of. And yet, it is money. So the bankers all understand this. And then all these other things, and then any other similar instrument. So a similar instrument to a bill of exchange is a promissory note. And they are both money. You don't have to collect a bill of exchange. It is money. It's exchangeable money on the spot, just like your $20 USD is. It's a promise, except they're not promising anything. It's gone to legal tender now, and we still pass these things around. You don't actually collect the $20 because there is no $20 to collect. So we're taking that very premise, which is their system is built on it, and going, you owe us money because you put up a smart meter on my house or my neighbor's house, or you flooded Travis County.
And Cal, let's talk about that bridge into the process and how it works. So we're dealing with commerce, law merchant, and conditional acceptance of a contract offer, which Cal will explain, and we're including an affidavit. An affidavit, Cal, the way that I see that is kind of like a linchpin, because an unrebutted affidavit, which they cannot rebut in these cases of the notice of liability, an unrebutted affidavit stands as fact in any matter, whether it's private or public or anything. And then so Cal's going to talk more about this. And then there's conditional acceptance with a fee schedule. And that fee schedule of if they continue to do the harm that has been exposed, and you're putting your full backing in it when you include the affidavit of facts, point form, right? If they continue to do the harm, then the fee schedule comes into effect, and it just continues to rack up and up and up and up. And so of these 35, perhaps 3,500 members for InPower, right? Maybe only, like, the cream always rises to the top, you guys, and you're all on this call because you are the leaders. You're all leaders here. And even if you're watching this, you are a leader and you're seeing this for a reason. But of the 3,500 members, only what, 10 to 15%, Cal, have done the documents, and they still have done achieved these kinds of results, and $35 billion in, like you said, bills of exchange, in true bills that become bills of exchange, that become money in their system. And there's plans to leverage that, which I don't know if you want to get into right now. But okay, so I've kind of done my best to encapsulate the process, sort of the aspects of it and how it works. But Cal, maybe if you could do your version of that and just explain like the nuts and bolts. If there's a lawyer, for example, watching this, right, that doesn't understand, hasn't been taught this stuff, right, but wants to understand from the foundation up, how does the notice of liability process work mechanically?
Yeah, so it's based on this, and this is what we send to lawyers, and we go, yeah, I know you went to law school, and all due respect, but they didn't teach you this at law school. Because you think law merchant is a myth, but here again, federal act. The rules of the common law of England, including the law merchant, save insofar as they are inconsistent with the express provisions of this act, apply to bills of exchange, notes, promissory notes, and checks.
Is the same case in the United States?
Yep, right here. This is 103, construction of the Uniform Commercial Code to promote its purposes and policies. This is the whole code. And applicability of supplemental principles of law. The Uniform Commercial Code, the whole code, must be liberally construed and applied to promote its underlying purposes and policies, which are: 1, simplify, which it does not do; clarify, mm, the modernize the law governing commercial transactions. 2, to permit the continued expansion of commercial practices through custom. This has to be liberally construed to customs, but it doesn't say what those are. Usage and agreement of the parties, which is not a contract. You can look this up. It's a loosey-goosey thing that can be enforced like a contract. That's how they get us into these agreements. And to make uniform the law among various jurisdictions. That's why if you read Canada, this has to comply with this. Does not say among the several states. It says various jurisdictions. And then here's what I just read in the Canada. Unless displaced by the particular provisions of the Uniform Commercial Code, the principles of law and equity, including the law merchant, there it is. Yet nobody knows about this. You're not taught this at law school. And there it is in one of your federal codes. So, and then principal and agent. So that's why we have notice of principal is notice to agent in our documents. So it goes up even to those who are unseen. They're still held liable at the highest levels. You get one of their agents, you get the principal. If you get the principal, you got the agents. And so we're getting them into this estoppel and into these agreements. So what we're saying is you can conditionally accept, you can modify the weather, but if you modify the weather, I'm going to charge you $50,000 a day. Do we have a deal? You can put your stupid smart meter on my house, unless you can prove it's safe and you still do it, then you owe me $50,000 a day. Do we have a deal? These are the agreements. And if you go silent, then you've agreed, because that's what you were just doing to me. You started this process. You're the one spraying in the air. You're the one putting the smart meter on my house. You're the one putting up 5G, saying that we're all agreeing to this. But we're not. And here's how we express it through the notice of liability. And it flips the whole thing back on top of them, like onto them. It's like a ping pong or a Aikido move or a judo move or yin and yang. We take the tail of the snake and stick it in its own mouth, and it has to eat itself. And so that's what that's the underlying mechanism of what we're doing. And then we just do it on the 4 agendas only because those 4 agendas are happening to everyone everywhere in exactly the same way. There's no variance. So we don't do taxes. We don't do divorce law. We can't even get into the child grabbing because there's too many variables. And some children need to be taken from the situation they're in. And so that's why we stick to those particular 4 agendas. And they're all weapons to reduce the population and then control the remainder. All 4 of these things work in tandem to do that. So we're attacking the beast at its weakest point. They thought they were being clever by operating in law merchant and getting our tacit agreement on these things, but it got flipped on them.
Can you talk about the spiritual jurisdictions that are invoked through the notice of liability?
Yes, again, notice the principle is notice the agent. Those that have any kind of biblical understanding, you'll know the verse in Ephesians 6 that says, we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but with principalities. That's the same root word as principle. So there's principalities, there's hierarchies of, and they do it here on earth as like a smaller version of it, so that you'll see the all-seeing eye, and then the pyramid, and then you'll see the 13 bricks. That's 13 families, and then on it, and it follows the Fibonacci series and all this stuff. So they got all the sacred geometry. They steal it all and try and make it theirs, and it's not theirs. They steal everything, but that's their structure. But there's also a structure in an unseen realm with the same numbers and the same geometry. And so as we do it here, we're doing it there, as above, so below, for those that hear it. Or the way Yeshua said it was, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. And so it's that we operate in a higher jurisdiction, but we do the action here and it operates in a higher jurisdiction. And there's nothing they can do about it. They can only try and scare us or discourage us or some kind of fear-based thing, get us into that state. And what we found by, just by it just happened, we weren't trying to make it happen, but we had a lot of people coming back on their first mailing when they walk out of the post office. They're having experiences bodily, spiritually. People are feeling like weights coming off. One woman shook for about 20 hours. She literally was just vibrating and stuff was just coming off of her. And everybody's having these weird, like different, but similar experiences as they, especially on the first document, because they have to get over that fear. And once you put the document into the post office and you actually let go of the thing, they now have custody of it. And you have committed. There's a commitment at the post office, and that's what people are experiencing. And then it spreads into the rest of their lives. That their fear is gone on all kinds of in all kinds of other areas of their life. They literally know how to get out of fear, and it's just amazing to watch this. The
It's
the
kind of like
unfolding
a,
of
sorry, I don't
yeah,
want to interrupt.
that's
The,
okay.
the unfolding of lives when we step into playing the game as an integrated soul, protecting our rights as we protect all of life.
Yes, and we take our position because and the Bible, it's all, I know it's vilified, and there's people here probably just like, and that's okay. Um, but on page 1, like if you're going to read anything in the Bible, read Revelation 18 and page 1. You might be able to join the dots. But we were given dominion in here, and we're here to actually, there's a purpose because there's an ancient claim on the actual creator's position or throne. And that's what's being played out here. And we're in the game at that level. And what we do here is affecting that. And we're so close to having the judgment come down and this all going away. Like they're going to be pulled out of here. And, where they go, I don't know. Or, dual reality. And I think some people understand this, that there's already sort of a split in the reality, etc. So there's something is happening, and we are the catalyst to make that happen. And even all the weather modification and everything in the Oregon that was brought up, I got into Oregon years ago when my play, like when I was in my court thing, they were sending some kind of energy into my house about 3 days before every court appearance, and I couldn't sleep. And I thought it was just anxiety because court's coming up, and I really don't like court. But I asked my daughters if they were sleeping, and they said, "No, Dad, there's vibrations going through, man." I went, "What?" Because I didn't say anything. So I went, "They're having the same spirits as I am in this house, so it's happening to the house. It's not me." And so, I roll, when people were doing Oregon, I was kind of like rolling my eyes. Well, I'm not sure if that hockey puck's really going to do anything, but okay. Not, I wasn't being rude, but, it's sort of like, I'm not sure about that. Well, I went and got some because I wanted to do something, and it worked. And I mean, it worked. So I started making my own and studying the depth of it, all the Reich stuff. And I got deep into it. And at a certain point, I just want to put this out there. I started to get into the sacred geometry and the phi ratio, the golden ratio, and the phi spiral, and I was putting that all into the things. And then I started to realize that I am an orgone generator. I'm in one. This body is an orgone generator, and it's way more powerful than anything I can make. It has all the phi ratios. It has all the proper crystalline water, minerals, etc. As long as you're, in a somewhat state of balance, and it's very powerful machine that I'm in, and we can stop their weather modification. We actually operate at a higher level, at the scalar level, and they're operating not at scalar, put it that way. So we can do a lot of things if we educate people and we all get together, and really, what Ma said earlier is it's about community and getting together in concert, working on educating people and giving them action plans. And it doesn't have to be just our thing. We're obviously promoting this, but there are other things that are happening. Like I said, there's, Govinda in Travis County got their underwear in a knot, and it looks like this is retaliation. So he's under their skin. This is the best they got, and I'm not downplaying what happened there, because it's horrible. But it really, if that's what you can't win in actual law and proper spiritual laws. Even you have to resort to bullying and acting like, mafia. That's not gonna work. And with the reset that's coming, like that tactic is going away. It's a dying breed. So we're trying to stay in honor. We're honoring even their system, and we're using their system against them, for lack of a better word. And they're really stuck. We just need people, and that's what we're after. We're not after members or membership fees or anything like that. We want to actually get away from US dollars. That's our goal. We want to transition the world away from that fiat system to something that's based on that system. We're actually taking the perceived value out of it and putting it on our own pieces of paper. Those are all decentralized. Everybody holds their own paper. We record it, so we don't have possession of it like a bank does. And so that's how we know how much there's out there. And then we just have to verify that people still have the documents, and we can issue a crypto based on that accruing value back to the world. Not sell it to them, give it to them.
And there's somebody on this call that is facilitating, and there's multiple people, as I understand it, right, within InPower Movement, the transition to crypto, and then to, within that realm, to leverage it and make it even more real as a commercial instrument, correct?
Yeah, like, well, make the bills, put them into a spendable form.
Yep.
But tracking everything and keeping everything honest, so everybody can see everything that's going on. And it's not based on speculation. You don't buy them, although markets will form. You can't stop that. But it's based on literally how many bills of exchange do we have on any certain day. That's the value of the crypto that's on any given day, and it
I
goes
want to
slightly up in value based on an algorithm.
Awesome. I want to just share with everyone a message that Cal sent me as we were preparing this call. I said, Cal, is there anything you want to share specifically about this next wave of the NOLs that's happening within 5 days from when this call is being recorded on Monday, July 14th, next Monday? The next wave is starting. So it's a perfect time to get in and become a member of InPower. We'll show you that screen again in a second. And it's at a discount. It's $100 a year if you use the link that you were referred by, the ambassador link. And it's an 8-week process, right, Cal, to walk you through every step of sending the notice of liability yourself. And you pick the several people, the respondents that you want to hold accountable from a list that they have within their fully integrated automated database. So this is what you guys, Cal, and your organization worked so hard for like 4 or 5 years on, getting this automated notice of liability creator system up and running to make it super simple. And you do this with full support over an 8-week journey, and then you send in your first document. There are other documents to send at any at specific times: the notice of fault, the notice of default, and then the billing. And those all become progressively more simple. Once you do the first document, it's just like boom, boom, yep, drop that in the mail. I got that down. So it's an 8-week journey, and it's tremendously empowering to do this in a community of all people like us who are fully awake and doing this also, learning this and walking this out also in real time. So that starts July 14th, but you can still get in. If you're watching this after July 14th, you can still get in the first, 1 or 2 weeks, you know.
Probably up to 3 weeks, and you won't be lost. And it's all recorded, so you could catch up. It's not a lot happens in the first, and you can do it way faster. We have a self, go at your own pace where you can just watch the videos and do it. Some people are just go-getters, and other people, want to poke around, and everybody's different. We don't try and judge. We're trying to get more people doing it. We want to get our numbers up past 10%. I know that crypto is definitely going to drive people, because it just does. Free money is always, and so I don't think there's another crypto offering out there that is, based on just giving it away.
Okay, so here's what Cal messaged me back. You said, Cal, with about 350 to 400 people sending, we have accumulated about 34 billion US dollars in bills of exchange. If we had 3,500 people, so 10 times, doing the same thing, it'd be 340 billion. If we had 35,000 people, the same thing would be 3.4 trillion. If we had 350,000 would generate the equivalent of the US GDP. So that's what you're talking about at the start of the call, right? Where you're actually able to create bills of exchange for greater than the entire GDP of the country. You add one more zero and it overtakes the world monetary system, which is the easiest one, because it will have so much momentum at the time, because it will feel like free money, like you said, and everybody will want it. Transfer of wealth, Revelation 18:17, their money goes to zero because we stop using it, which is the only reason it has any value. So this is more than just a piece of paper, but all you really need to focus on is the steps required for you to send your own piece of paper. And that's, the exciting thing. So I just want to do a quick screen share before we kind of wrap the main phase of this call up. I want to, let's see. All right, hopefully you guys can see that, and I'm sharing the right screen. Can you see this again? So inpowermovement.org/Josh, that's my link. And if you were referred by anyone else, use their link. This link saves $50 on the membership. You can see here it's $100 US for the first year. So it's $150 a year. And then using a link of a ambassador will save you $50 a year. There's a 2-minute video here that you guys produced last year, I think, that is an excellent introduction. And then if you scroll down, at least on my link here, if you scroll down, there you see 4 days, 23 hours. So 5 days from now is when that first wave starts, July 14th at 11 a.m. PST. So to get started, click Save Your Spot, and you can enroll there. If you want to go deeper, take the hour and watch this episode 1, which Cal and I produced together. Back in 2017 during the seed group phase, several years before you guys completed the automated NOL creator. And Cal, this holds up. Like everything that we created in this video 8 years holds up as fact and has been strengthened ever since. So yeah, this is definitely playing the long game. It's you showing up in your full power and exercising, free will, your free will, to say no and play the game in a very powerful, effective, and supported way with community. So I'll just stop sharing here. And Cal, is there anything else you want to share before we kind of open it up, take questions, and I would love to get reflection from the leaders that are on this call.
Yep. So inside the thing, not only do we have the documents, but Dave and I do a teaching. Dave's not here. We do a biblical teaching, which is different than you're going to get at a church. it's more along the lines of, because the king has to take an oath and there's oaths and all this. We dive into that aspect of it, the contractual covenant active aspects of it, and then we also do a series on law merchant. So you get into the principles of a law merchant, understanding how they have scammed us over a long period of time, how these instruments work, and we don't teach people how to pay their bills. We give the principles of how it works, but we don't give templates or anything like that because we're sticking to our thing. But people are taking the information and getting their own results, and it's quite interesting to watch. So yeah, so there's that all there. And then in the community, we get, I'm just used to the community, but we get a lot of comments on the community itself and how it conducts itself. We don't have anybody yelling at anybody, swearing at anybody, any calling of names. We've had the odd person come in that's usually, not, but they don't get any bites. And so they kind of go away. And then some of them come back changed. They realize, you know what? I'm done with that. I want to actually fit in here. And they come back and they are different people. And not because of anything we said or did or anything like that. I don't know what happens, but they come back and they are magically different. And so I shouldn't say it that way because I do know what it is, but it's not because we're forcing anybody to do anything. It's literally there's a culture, and a culture is real. It's relational. Again, going back to what Ma said, and it's it can't be changed. It's too strong at this point. It's like a sourdough starter. You put flour and water into it's not going to change the starter. The starter is going to change the water and the flour. And that's how it is.
Awesome,
So that's
Cal.
it. We'll take some questions.
Well, look at that. We almost did it 60 minutes, almost on time. It's first ever. So if you're, for those of you on the call, the leaders that have like podcasts and reaches, Cal is like, I'm seeing you on Joe Rogan, man. Like Cal is meant for long form podcast. He can go so deep, and just invite him. If you want an intro to Cal, just message me and we'll set it up. But Cal, you've made yourself available, right? To like just
Oh,
be
yeah.
available to get the word out. And it's I let's get you
I've
on
been
Joe
on some
Rogan.
I've been on some podcasts that I was the third person.
Mhm.
And now they've grown, but like I came in when there was nobody. I don't care. It's not about that. Yeah, I'll go on just about anything. Like, there's very few that I've ever said, no, I can't be really a part of your thing, but maybe one.
All right, so let's go to questions, and I just want to call in, your curious self. For those of us on the live stream, your wise, you know, whatever insights you had, whatever thoughts, but also your questions, even if you're like skeptical about it.
Yeah.
That's all welcome.
Yep.
Leslie asked a little bit ago, and people have been able to get their smart meters removed. Otto said you can do that just without doing an NOL, call the electric company. That's more like an opting out. And Hilda said that's not been everyone's in every jurisdiction. Some
No.
places have no option apparently to opt out. So this is most effective as a preventative measure for something like smart meters. But yeah, people have got them.
People have had them, yeah, turned around, but not many compared to how many didn't. So every utility is different. Every state has different regulations, and everything's different. The only thing that's the same is the meter itself, and that's why we can do the notice of liability on meters, because the meter doesn't change.
And so would you say in general, this is about playing a hand and
Wait,
then
Josh, can I just ask, what does Cal mean by that? The meter doesn't change. So the reason I asked is because when I last spoke with you guys a couple of years ago, you said that people had been able to prevent them being installed, but once they were installed, it was hard to remove them. So I was wondering if there had been any change on that, number one, and two,
No.
but what did you just mean by that the meter
The,
doesn't change?
the meter is the same in Tennessee, in Denmark, in Japan, they're identical. The vaccines are the same in Australia, Austria, and Mexico. Like yeah, they don't, there's no variance on them. It's literally the same thing happening everywhere. And that's why this works, because they rolled out weapons using commercial means. It's very clever because we're agreeing to the weapons of our own demise. And they expect to stand before God and say they agreed to this.
So just to touch on, I think to bridge to Leslie's question in a different way, Cal, the, I mean, the way that I understand this, I would love your feedback, is that you're putting your hand in, you're playing your hand, and then the stakes get increased in terms of, okay, if they don't take it off the house, then you start billing. Then the
Yeah.
money goes up. And if they're still obstinate, if they're still not going to recognize the validity of this process, because not every respondent recognizes the validity of this and then acts accordingly, or just is fully invested in the agenda, so they just keep going, right? They don't take the meter off your house as an example. Then it's the document process is designed to elevate in jurisdiction, and now you default them at a higher level and even getting into the spiritual level, right? So
Yes.
so, I mean, so yes, in some cases, meters have been removed. In more cases, smart meters have been prevented,
Yeah.
right? Prevented from going in the first place if it
Yeah.
was done in time. But
Yes.
this is like, is there anything else you want to say on that? Did I kind of encapsulate that in an accurate way?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. They got stronger in Europe. They caught on to what was happening here in North America, and they hid the fires, etc. We've got lots of evidence of fires and all kinds of things going on, here in North America. Meters blowing up and all kinds of stuff. Well, they capped all that, but in Europe they are allowing opt-outs for the most part. So there's a bit of a balance there, but here we have had meters turned back, definitely, and we have had some kept off for years. But by and large, most of it they move ahead because they feel that they're in a powerful position, only because you're dealing with one or two people in any given county or town. Now, if there was 100 people sending, you get a different result. This is how the Queen of Denmark stepped down. She got 14 NOLs. And her mantra, she was there since 1953, almost as long as Elizabeth. And her mantra, almost every time she spoke, was, "I will never abdicate the throne. I am here until I die." And then 2 years ago on New Year's Eve, gave her normal New Year's Eve address, and oh, and by the way, yeah, I'm out of here in 2 weeks. Bye. And everybody was like, "What? What was that?"
Similar thing with Dan Andrews, right? The infamous
Yep.
premier of Victoria in Australia.
Yep. 15 minutes notice he gave. And he said, "I'm tired."
Yeah.
And then he said, "Oh, has anybody got a job opportunity?" Yeah.
Andy Kaufman, our friend, asks, aside from the smart meter success for the vaccine and 5G NOLs, what were the outcomes? Did any 5G towers come down? Were any vaccine mandates lifted? Resignations are a good step, but won't their replacement just do the same thing?
Their replacement does do the same thing for the most part, but again, it has to do with there's only 300 people sending. And what we found, so a couple of things was the Queen of Denmark was the first royal to step down. None of them have ever stepped down. And we found in, I think it was Nova Scotia, they were looking for a new head of the health the health ministry, and nobody took the job. And I'm not sure if anybody has. Like they were like, why doesn't somebody want this cushy job? So the more people that do this, eventually people aren't going to step into those positions because they get the liability. It passes on to the next person. And even in Seattle, when you were still here, we had the mayor of Seattle. It was a Seattle City Light. He stepped down, a new mayor came in, he got the documents, he stepped down in a month. So it has to do with numbers, and the goal isn't to get people to step down. That's just a side effect. It's to stop the agenda, and if you don't stop, we're going to take all of your money. And then what are you going to do? Their money is fragile, people. It literally has no value whatsoever. It's only because we use it that it has any value. And that's a concept you got to kind of wrap your head around. And once we take the value off their pieces of paper, put it on our pieces of paper, and we can make them we can move very quickly because of the numbers are huge. You take $50,000 a day and add it up, it adds up very quickly. And then you just multiply that by X amount of people, and there's your results. And at a certain point, it becomes the new monetary system. Then what are you going to do? The money's in the hands of people who want to do the right thing, want to clean the oceans instead of destroying everything, stop all the spraying in the air. So it comes down to the money at the end of the day, Andy, and that's if they don't turn around and basically repent. So the opportunity is always there for them to change their course of direction, but we're not going to put up with this destroying everybody and destroying the earth and just causing mayhem. It's got to stop.
Thanks, Cal. I want to invite Hilda. Hilda, do you want to come on and ask your question?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I think this is wonderful. I agree with you on so many levels, and I can't help but wonder as we try to grow the membership and this movement, if people are going to ask, what's the risk to me? So that's why I put my question in the chat. I was just wondering, how much can you become a target if you kind of turn the law on its head and hold these people accountable? Like, will they come after us, is I guess what I'm wondering.
Yes, they have. We've had numerous lawyers from all over the world. Well, not all over the world. Europe and uh, Australia and North America. A lot in North America. They write on behalf of somebody because they start to realize, oh, there might be something real going on here. I'm getting this is they start to freak out. And almost every time even if they threatened harassment charges or anything, nobody ever got charged with harassment. And most of the time, the lawyer just disappeared. We had a lot of lawyers disappear. Now, new lawyers sometimes would come up, but most of the time they just go silent. Then we had people arrested in Montreal, and I need to understand this. They were all arrested on the same day. They had it investigated enough. One of the ladies was on holidays. She flew back to Montreal. They did it the following morning. So they knew when she was coming back. They got all three of them at the same time, so there was no communication. There were 7 to 8 RCMP cars, which is a police, at each site arresting these people. It was a big operation, a lot of money spent. And then it went to nothing. Because once they got all the documents, because they came with just a bill, and if you send a bill in the mail, yes, that can be construed as, some kind of harassment. But once they got all the documents, because they had search warrants and all that stuff, they went through people's homes, they took their phones, et cetera, et cetera. And at the end of the day, after 3 months, they still didn't have a docket number up, and we weren't going to, make any moves to move it from Quebec City to Montreal until they put the docket number up. And we made it known. I know they listen. They're probably listening to it right now, and I don't care because there's nothing they can do. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I feel like people who care about this, all of these issues, as I do, it's kind of a little bit of a silly question, I guess, because we want to stand for those who aren't aware and to hold accountable those in leadership to make this sea change happen. So it's a little bit of a moot point, but I guess I wonder what the personal cost will be, but also this whole process, like for me, I feel really busy. I want to do it, but I'm like, how much of my time is it going to take to go through this training to get all this paperwork right?
Well, it's an hour a week. You can do it just by reading if you're a reader, and you can do it just by watching the videos. And and I've seen people come in, they've joined and said, I got to be on holidays in 2 weeks. I need this done. And I said, well, that's pretty fast to, get it all up. And they do it. They're just one of those type of people that can just, okay, what do I got to do? Read this. Okay. Well, got that. Check, 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 check. Okay. Next. And they move. So everybody's a little bit different. And then some people don't move at all. Like for whatever reasons. And we did a survey. So a couple things came up. What you said, I'm busy. Some people didn't feel they knew enough, um, et cetera, et cetera. Some people said they couldn't find stuff in our site. But those that are doing it, once they step over that line and they drop it at the mail thing, it changes. Like we're seeing people's lives change on a real level, and it has nothing to do with us. Like it's not
Right,
us.
right. And so, what do you think, last but not least, what do you think is the biggest hurdle for people, especially those of us who are kind of awake? What do you think is the biggest hurdle for them getting involved and taking action on this? Is it the busyness, do you think, or
Fear,
mm,
some kind of fear. It doesn't have, you don't have to be terrified, but any kind of anxiety or I don't know, I don't want to, I don't want to risk whatever it is. Um, that's the main thing. And we have a thing on fear, and we're trying to capture. There was a lady on yesterday, and she was just, it was just like everybody was just melted listening to her because she just explained what happened to her. And she said, my daughters picked the documents up and they went, Mom, what is this? This is like amazing. Not even reading it, picking it up. And people were just, we're all just like, wow, look at that. And that has nothing to do with me or anything like that. But she got over her fear and just did it. And she
mm,
said, it's changed my life. My kids notice it. Mom, you're different.
wow.
What happened? I don't know. I went to the post office and sent these documents. And that
What
you
about,
can't, like there's no way to quantify or even explain what that is.
hmm
what about if they'd say they're going to turn off your electricity even though you submit those letters?
They do. We've had that.
Yeah,
And
because there were people in New Hampshire when I was trying to help them get rid of their smart meters, and the companies basically said, "We'll just turn off your power."
yep. And we just keep going. See, the beauty of it is we keep billing. And I can guarantee you, like anybody that's, like Q who's been in upper banking, they can see what it is. And
Mhm.
anybody that's a CEO, if they don't know what it is, they know somebody who does, and you just feel it. They went, "Oh, dude, you're in trouble here,"
Mhm.
and that's the thing. So you can cut my power off, but I'm cutting your money off, dude. And this is a negotiable instrument. I've got the original. I'm telling you, I've got it, but I could give it to somebody else who could come in and shut you down. That's the potential of it. We're not doing any of that, but they know that that potential is there. If the IRS ever got these bills, it's over.
Mhm.
Matt, you have your finger on the pulse with where the awake community is at, right? You're doing videos on your Instagram, cultivate, elevate, like pretty much every day. Encourage everyone to sign up there or follow you. What's your feeling on what's required to proliferate more people standing and doing a liability action like this, like actually spreading the message and helping more people to tap in and actually do it? What do you think? Where are people at? What do you think is going to help InPower go forward in the best way?
Well, if people know the process and the process is, simplified so that they can understand it, that can help. But the whole thing that we just talked about where people getting their power shut off, that's a challenge because even if a person is trying to take resistance, if they have their power shut off, their whole family's going to have no power, and that's a problem. So the only way I can see, at least this in my eyes, of everything we just kind of talked about, is almost like a community getting together at some, I would say, community center. Like, for example, where I am, everybody knows each other. The neighbors all know each other. They don't tolerate anything. They wanted to build things. They don't get to build anything. Nobody agrees for that to happen. So I feel like it has to happen at that grassroots movement, and same thing with the cell phone towers, like getting rid of those as well. There has to be a grassroots movement so people can do this. But the challenge is if they say, for example, we're going to turn off your power, that's the problem that I see with this because people aren't going to risk either having their power shut off or being arrested, even though they're not getting charged. And I get that, but then putting themselves or their family in danger. Because think about it, people have kids and everything else. I'm just thinking of the whole thing as a whole, and that's just the things that I kind of see. But
Yeah.
if people understood that they could submit documents, that there could be a group effort to get rid of, say, a cell phone tower in the town or something like that, that I'm all for, because I think that people will resonate with that. And if people had options like that, so they knew what to do, it makes it very easy. But a lot of people, at this point, a lot of people don't really know what I would say to do because of the 1996, Telecommunications Act, which protects all the cell phone towers that Bill Clinton signed into whatever. So, we're kind of in a little bit of a pickle,
But
that's
that's
for sure.
moot. But I just want to jump in here and say that's moot with this process.
Yeah.
That has no bearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to
And
know.
even the cutting off of power, you can take the meter. They have to prove it's safe.
Yeah, well, Jimmy said in the comments here, InPower has an acceptance under duress letter for
Duress,
those
yeah.
that choose to accept a smart meter but still continue the NOL and billings. And I want to say two things. A, I don't think that happens very often. Cal, correct me if I'm wrong, especially lately, right? Very few people are getting their power shut off if they do the smart meter NOL. And B, what we're mostly focused on this call is geoengineering. You're not going to get your power shut off because you're sending to stop geoengineering. So I just want to frame that and put that in context. But Matt, good points is that we're
Yep.
all processing the fear of really playing the game at a higher level and taking a stand, right?
Yeah. And we had on the vaccine one, there was a young lady who was in medical school of all things in Australia. And they said, you got to have these 30 vaccines, otherwise you can't come back to school. And she just kept sending the notice of liability, and they kept denying it and denying it. And then she showed up in January at the new term, and nobody said anything. After all this is your last chance, and all the letters that they sent. So we've seen this, if people stand, the reality literally changes around them. There's a deeper thing happening here, and the more that we experience that, the more we're going to understand who we are in this thing. But it's got to start somewhere. You can't be sitting there hoping, that my rights are going to somehow protect me, or the, whatever is going to come over the hill. It's we have to be engaged, and there are some, risks, but we haven't had anybody convicted. Now I have to say, I haven't had anybody convicted of. We've had people arrested for 2 counts of harassment and 1 count of conspiracy, criminal charges.
And if I may remember, that was they sent to a big fish, right?
Yeah.
So to speak.
And if I may, that could be very well
Tuesday
part of
you
your
sent
soul's, that could be part of your soul's journey, like it was for you, Cal, right?
Yeah.
Go through that and to actually be wrongfully incarcerated. And it's almost like it's like a test and an upgrade potential. And if you hold your ground, and you never even signed anything when you were in jail, right? So you went to the next level of holding your ground. You didn't agree to anything. You didn't sign anything. You didn't offer your commercial endorsement, let's say. But the resistance that we experience in this incarnation has a divine purpose. in so much that it gives us the opportunity to respond in a way that's aligned with our deepest aspect and to actually strengthen ourselves. And to do that, like this process does, turn the tables on them, to do that Aikido move of taking their energy and their system and their offer and their offer of, I'm going to incarcerate you and I'm going to try to put fear into you and I'm going to try to defeat you, right? What are we going to do with that? What are we going to do? So I wanted, like, in context, that's happened. I mean, that was the first time in the history of 11 years of people sending this process that it kind of went that far, right?
Yeah.
But you go through this eye of the needle and this compression, and there's a rebirth that happens. And as long as your intention is good, I have seen it in my life and in other lives that you emerge stronger. The whole,
Yeah.
From the ashes. I don't know if we want to use that analogy, but I just want to, as we kind of move towards wrapping up the call, there's just so many awesome leaders on this call. I'm just so grateful to be having this conversation, to be part of this conversation with you all.
I'm trying to connect when Cal talks about how you do this document, you mail it, and that action, it does something in you. It's because there's life in the document. What we had learned way back in the day when we just first started, we didn't even start praying over everything. We were just doing paperwork, pushing it. And then one day someone asked me, we need to pray over this. So we did. What we realized is the words themselves, when we were quoting the World Health Organization, or we were quoting Bill Gates, I started feeling, and you do this too, Cal said it, everybody has this. They just need to start working it. So the when we would go over the words, I would read a certain phrase. I would actually not even read it. I would just feel it. I would just go read the document a little bit, but then I would just scan, and then boom, I would go right to a certain spot, and then I would feel the energy over it, and I would picture in my mind, or at least that's what I was seeing. That's how it worked. I would start seeing like what was happening. There would be anger, jealousy, fear, all these kind of things over those words. So we just bound those things. Now that's strictly in the word, in the Bible, and you bind them and you break them, and then we cast them out, and then we loosed peace over it, agape love. And that right there was what we stumbled upon. And it has been very powerful. We did that through the whole document. We do on every NOL. And when people who are not aware of the spiritual realm or the energy, the frequencies, when they touch it, they start feeling something different. They don't know what it is, and they're intrigued. So what we're doing here, we started out with just paperwork, but then it became something, and all of you here know that the growth we've been through in the last 5 years has accelerated. I myself have too. I'm sure, Josh, you can tell. But there is life in what we're doing, and that's where here's something that came up in prayer that just blows my mind, and that is the idea of money. We went back to the idea of money, and we bound it, we broke it, and we put our own stuff on it. That's where this whole commerce system, everything starts in the spirit, as above, so below, or in the Our Father's prayer, the other way. So there, the idea of money started in the spirit realm because someone had an idea, and then they spoke it out, created something, and then it manifested in the earth. And then they could use it, they could form it like Play-Doh. That's how I see it in the spirit realm. And so with this money, they put the eye on there. They try to hijack everything that the creator created and put it on stuff. And all we got to do is bind it, break it, take it off, and then loose peace on it. And it's not hard to do, but when you come from that place of, I don't remember who it was that was saying that place of that peace inside of yourself, that authenticity, everybody's into authenticity, it's real, and it is a frequency. And that placed on the documents, when you're handing them over, it engages something. And when with the Montreal incident, it's not even an incident, it was It was a miracle. When this happened and this high-level person tried to use his magic over us, I could see that he was very intellectual, but he did have some engagement in the intent part of it. He knew something to do. So what we did is we went and we looked at all the police and the authorities that he engaged into his tactic, and they were normal people. So like we were just seeing who's who, and there's this spiritual chess game that goes on, and he'll give you a heads up. He'll let you know when you get that. All of a sudden you think of someone and then they call you. That stuff is real. And if you start using it with the right heart, they don't know how to use it with the right heart. They have to use the black and the white side of the checkerboard to keep a balance. So they'll give money and be a philanthropist, but they don't engage like you all do because you guys know how to work through your heart. And so I don't want to minimize the paperwork part with the spiritual. I want to say they work together, and then it starts in the spiritual realm. It's manifested in the earthly realm. But we can take, I call it a term that I got a couple of years ago. It's called digital deliverance. And this is where I want to go with geoengineering. And that is to pray down actual technology. I had learned when I was going to court, I was working with InPower, I had learned about the jurisdiction part. And then I was in a courtroom. They had a lawsuit for DTE here in Detroit. Something's going on. I went there to support. But I prayed in the room and I broke the Wi-Fi. And I was having a horrible headache that was terrible. And so I broke it and it stopped just like that. And then to prove that it happened, Creator had this woman next to me stand up and say that, oh, I have such a headache from the Wi-Fi. And I said, oh, you do? Mine just stopped. And it was the first time I realized that their energy, the Wi-Fi, it's actually a frequency that we can stop. And that's when I started becoming more empowered on that level. And I started exploring that, there's something more to this. And so I think like what Kumar is talking, there's so much that we haven't tapped into yet that we've prayed down storms. We've neutralized some of these riots that are going on just through prayer, just through a few of us in our prayer calls. But there's something to it, and we need to explore more, is just what I'm saying. But the paperwork part of this and what we're building in the commerce, that's their system. If we take it over with the tool that they're using, we're just going to use their tool. Then on the spiritual level, they cannot match us. They match us with paper, but they can't do it. When we're in the right, they can't do it. And I've seen people back down. I was just using the 123 notice at a city hall meeting, and the lawyer went and he backed down, and we had a city councilwoman remove. I used the word demand because it's one of the two powerful words in a court of law. And I demanded she be removed for something she had done fraudulently, just not disclosing information. That's what we talk about here. She didn't disclose, and she was gone in 4 hours. She resigned publicly. In 2 days, they had a special meeting to remove her. These are the kind of things that, if we used these types of things, it just doesn't have, it's like the tool itself, the notice, like he was saying, they get scared. So we just need to be effective and strategic. And I don't know, I guess that's it.
That's so good. Jenny, thank you so much. I mean, you've come a long way since meeting in 2014. I'm getting emotional right now. I just really appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you. The first time I saw Take Back Your Power, that's how I got involved. I went to see Take Back Your Power, and then we had that big, Andre had, brought you guys in, and that was it changed everything for me. So.
Wow. Anyone else that wants to jump in? Kind of now's your chance to just unmute yourself and ask your question, offer reflection and or suggestion to bring this movement to the next to the next level, because it really is, it's us doing it together, as Cal said earlier. So,
Hey,
yeah, go ahead.
I'll say something real quick, Josh. Thank you, by the way, for your time, for bringing me into this, Cal. Again, thank you for your wisdom. I wish you would have got more time to talk when we were at Confluence, but it will happen. Um, I'm very much on board with everything that I've heard and kind of what I've just knew about the InPower and NOL process from before. I guess the one thing I would like to say to Matt's point and to your question, I truthfully think that the real tipping point is this propaganda that we, people who think like us, including the people on this call and our communities, are in the minority. And I just have this hunch that even though communication and awareness of each other might be scant, I do think that there are more people than less who truly think this way. And I think that there's a tremendous amount of gaslighting and social programming going on to convince the few who are really most vocal that their efforts are in vain when they're the opposite of that. So I think that the real tipping point is just this, like, I don't want to say mob awareness, but it's this kind of like, you guys, we have the numbers for this. Like, it's not as hard as we actually might be thinking it was. Because I have to remind myself of that all the time. Like, maybe I'm not the only one, but I go through moments where I'm like, is it worth it? I mean, like, a few people get it, but like the rest of y'all knuckleheads seem lost in the sauce. And I then get reset when it comes to hearing things like clearing $3 billion worth of NOLs for your company, because that's remedy. That is actual success. And so I hear that and I go, whether we're talking like David and Goliath analogy with the little smooth stones or the butterfly effect, all of these are like little people doing big move scenarios. And I really do, I guess I felt that coming off your tone in your conversation tonight. So I think that really the only gap to close is this kind of like, hey, there is an option gap. It's just kind of like, we know we want to fix this, but nobody has any clue of how to do that. Communication, obviously, but I don't know, what you guys are doing is great, because every time I get comes into my crosshairs of focus, I'm always like, all right. And you always present it with both a spiritual lens that governs the whole conversation, which to me is very apt, but also this kind of like tangibility that's like, you guys, it's like actually doable. Yeah. And so I appreciate that, number one. And I also think that that is the answer, that tone being communicated to a 10% or a 5% of influencers, of tastemakers, of needle movers, to where that 5% comes a working 5 or 10%. And that right there is over 300,000 people.
Yeah.
Enough to push GDP.
Yes.
So, I appreciate it. I
And,
guess that was just me like randomly saying, puff, 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 good job. But I appreciate it.
and as far as everybody, paying their rent, etc., what do you think 300,000 people paying $10 a month looks like?
Yeah, like
Can
very
it can
much a
it
movement.
can it sustain all of us here? I think so.
Yeah.
Instead of, I'm going to give you 10% of, what, if you put something out, we need to actually just work together.
Mhm. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I like this call really did help help me understand like a collective action item in terms of what can be done, even
Yeah.
beyond just the concept of how it all works. So I
Yep.
appreciate your time and just explaining this was great.
Yeah. I mean, even like collaboration, even for resources, like people who like Jimmy who can code. If we all had one resource, we have a guy that's really good at marketing and advertising, and a few people use them, and that's one guy can do all of it. One team. It's just, we got to stop thinking in terms of hang on to mine, and it's it's literally all God's, and we just need to come together and it will take care of itself. And I mean, I can see it that whatever you're making now, if we all were together, you'd be making twice or three times the amount. It's just like Netflix. Blockbuster was a great a commercial model where you sell the same thing over and over, renting. Like it's a pretty good model. Netflix blew them off the planet because they had so many people paying $10 a month, where they started making movies, their own movies, etc. So this is we got to start thinking together. And one of the things is written in the NOL is that we can change the meters, have an electrician come in and change the meters, but not the way at the level we're at now with 300 people sending. You got 3 million people sending, and we all change the meter all on the same day. What are they going to do?
And with regard to the geoengineering, just to bring it back to that, Cal, you've already identified within in the system and the automated notice of liability creator that you get access to when you become a member, you've identified dozens of respondents that participants can select from the drop down and send to, right? Like people don't have to do the research of, oh, who would I hold liable? But you do have the ability to select from options who you want to hold liable. So like we heard from Matt at the start of the call, the company that's doing this, that just got a $200 million contract from Palantir, right, to play their nefarious role of challenge.
Yeah, that
Nominating themselves to be held accountable and liable as men and women. So it's not the companies we're holding accountable and liable, it's the men and women acting in those roles, right? So, but for the geoengineering issue, that version of the NOL, how many respondents would you say are already available to select from in your database?
I don't know. Jimmy can probably find that in a few seconds.
Okay.
I don't know, but yeah, but we do ask people to put in respondents. You pick your own, and we vet them for you, make sure everything's, and then we hold the data as well, because if there's a Nuremberg 2, which I think is going to happen, there's going to be, and we're already seeing it, people trying to scrub themselves from the whole COVID thing. They're like, you can't find that they were involved anymore. Well, too late. We have your screenshots, we have your URLs. You were there, you did it, you knew. Don't even try it. So we have a pretty cool database based on that. So we know who these people are.
And Jenny just said in the chat, safety is into decentralization. Each claimant or participant keeps their own documents as well. So you guys have it, and we each keep our own. And she says, Dorico is already being made into a respondent right now. The Rainmaker will be a respondent for geoengineering. So there you go, in real time. So I just want to say before we wrap up here, just become a member and get in on this. And like Cal says, everybody doing the lifting together, and then sharing with the people either in your life or in your community or on your email list or on your podcast if you have one, whatever areas of influence. Have Cal on and just share the invitation for the notice of liability process. And I'm glad if you are watching this and you have my contact info, message me, and if not, then just email support@inpowermovement.org, inpowermovement.org, and then there's a link there to save the $50 on your yearly membership. So I know Q had a question. How about any final questions? You guys can either just pop on, ask them, or put them in the chat. But Q, do you want to come on and ask Cal?
Yeah, I think that what I'm observing, this is a very valuable process because individuals have become victims to corporate initiatives, and we don't have a say in it, but we're being affected by it. So I was part of a team of about a dozen people here in Calgary where we got notice on a long weekend that TELUS was planning on putting a 5-story 5G tower up over 2 schools and a handicapped children facility for hearing impaired children. And about 30 meters away from the nearest residence. And we went through the process, formed a petition against, we had our community association fight against it, and they just notified us, the city, everybody was hot potato, and they've said they're going to go ahead with it. So I see this process as the notice of liability is like, okay, fine. If you want to put the tower up, then it's $50,000 a day, and here's the notice of liability. And if you serve it to the board of directors and the CEO and the mayor of Calgary and everybody else that's involved in the decision-making process, I come from a background of directors and officers liability. I mean, if you sit on a board, if you're an executive, your assets are online. So I think the scare tactic of this on the monetary side that's legally powerful puts the power back into the individuals and sends them running for the hills. It's like you can progress with this if you want, but you're going to owe it personally at the end of the day. And they may dispute it and review it, but when they meet with their legal counsel and then they go, actually, this is reality, I can see why executives and the Queen and everyone's running for the hills because they know they're personally strictly liable for what they're getting involved in. So
Strict liability. Yep.
yeah, like strict liability is something people don't understand. Like, I mean, it's a different than other types of liability. Like,
Yeah.
you don't want to get involved in strict liability
Yeah.
because you're done, from my
Yeah.
opinion, anyway, in my
Yeah,
experience.
and even if you have limited liability and you are covered, you're only covered to a certain point, and then but we're billing millions and billions of dollars. Like your risk management can't cover it.
Yeah, I
Like
think
now
this
it's
is so
yeah,
I asked the question, have notice of liabilities been served to Telus and Rogers and the CEOs?
yeah.
Because because and then are they just ignoring them or what are they doing? I guess they're
We've
just
had some step downs in various telecom companies
yeah,
in the United States and Canada. When you see those people stepping down, like I said, they don't say, "Yeah, by the way, they got a notice of liability from five InPower members." You don't see
yeah.
that in the news, but we know that they did. And again, could be a coincidence, but we're having a lot of coincidences.
Yeah, when you get paperwork served on you and you think you might have to go into disclosure, it's a different world. People don't understand. Like I come from an insurance and risk management background,
There you
and
go.
holy, when it gets serious and paperwork's delivered, but this is lawfare. We're the victims are the citizens and the public that we're getting battered when if we can turn it around David and Goliath, great example. You know what?
Exactly.
He had a slingshot or a sling, and he knew how to use it. So, yeah, no,
Yep.
this is very interesting. Thanks, guys. You've done a great job. It's very nice to meet you.
Thanks, Q. Great to have you on with your background in insurance and risk management specifically, right, and banking as well. I just want to address your question you said about Rogers and Telus, I think, right? So if you scroll up in the chat, there's a list of people who stepped down. It's not a complete list; it's a partial list. William
Okay.
Sheffield, CEO of Hydro One in Canada. You have Ryan Silvey, Chairman of Missouri Public Service Commission. You have Pierre Despars, interim president and CEO of Hydro Quebec.
So these
And
are power lines. So I follow
yep,
Robert O'Becker's work quite closely, and I work in metabolic health. So reactive oxygen species, I mean, blue light, light magnetism, and water is what drives our biology. So, yeah, they say this is all safe, but
right, but
No, it's
they
not.
can't rebut the affidavit. It stands as fact. Karen Hutt, CEO of Nova Scotia Power. So all
yeah.
these in Canada.
Yeah, and these are power companies, which I find is quite interesting. When you look at Robert O'Becker and Andrew's work, originally on the power lines and working for the US Navy, the submarine project there in Wisconsin or wherever they were planning on putting up those towers. I mean, that was historical, but yeah, the power companies, they know electromagnetic radiation affects biology. There's no So this, yeah, the notice of liability, like every child and family that has leukemia, hello, write up your notice of liability. Let's like, I mean, we need to be compensated for this, you know? So yeah, very interesting.
So thanks so much, Q. Via says, thank you. The most spiritual thing there is taking action, affirming our free will.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Amen. And oh, thank you. So good to see you, by the way, Cal, also from Confluence, and Josh, thank you for the invite. Yes, and oh my gosh, new age spirituality. Speaking of psyops, it's just like once you see that, see through, you can't unsee it.
No.
It's like such a deception. So yeah, that's why I'm like shifting to feet on the ground, boots on the ground is like the most spiritual thing there is.
Yeah.
So,
And at a certain level, the reality starts to change around each one of us. We all have that inherent. And, during COVID, I walked right by police officers and they didn't see me.
yeah.
I've walked through the Toronto airport and I shouldn't have been able to get through there.
Without a mask, you're talking about, right?
No, this was before the masks, but that's because I was on the, thing in front of Buckingham Palace and something got shut down and they knew it and they figured out who did it and figured out what plane I was on and got me in Toronto. But
Different frequency signature. Yeah, it's just
It's a higher plane. Cal, you're on a higher plane.
exactly. Yeah, it's
yeah,
not
but,
syncing with the fake
but
matrix anymore.
yeah, well, that's the thing. But I don't think I'm unique. I think we all have it. I stumbled into it. I didn't like try to make this happen. It just started happening. I'm like, can't they see me? What can I hear? And then it happens again, and you're like, okay, something's going on here. Like, why is this? Why am I having this experience?
It's a different frequency.
Yep.
Your aura, your chakras.
And it has to do with fear because each time that this happened, I started to go into fear and my physiology changed. You can feel the chemistry moving, you feel all that stuff. And then I went, no, and it reversed. Then I see the miracle.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Yeah.
And in the Bible, it was like that. Fear not. And they went, it was overwhelming odds. Fear, don't go into fear. And
Yeah.
boom, walls came
Even,
down and all kinds of things, seas,
yeah.
That's how it works in here.
Totally. Yeah, even on a scale of consciousness, right? Like I learned recently, being in authenticity and truth trumps everything. It's
Yes.
above joy, love. It's just like it's the that's the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the more that we process the fears and the false beliefs that attach themselves to our lower emotions and lower parts, maybe even of our energy centers of our physical body, the more we process and heal those and come to more clear thought and understanding of who we really are, right? It just everything else, from the joy to the soul strength to the ability to navigate in this world and to hold and emanate that reality changing essence of consciousness that we are, that all increases. So, if we're bumping up against fear, in this case, fear of being visible, fear of standing out, fear of being different, fear of being excluded from the herd of mainstream or whatever, or ridicule, I think by now, in the last 5 years, we've all done a good amount of processing of fear and of that stuff. But this is a great opportunity to just to step in, right? And to allow that, to say yes to showing up fully here. So just in closing this, because we do have to end this call at some point, and I think now is probably a good time. But Cal and everyone on this call, all the amazing leaders on this call, I just want to thank you for everyone for being here and for just saying yes to this wave of compassion and courage. I think that I'm feeling, and that many of us are tapping into, like something new is actually happening, that we can feel and that we're part of, and that we get to co-create here in physical bodies. So
Yep.
Cal, do you have any final thoughts just before we close this out and say goodnight?
I just want, I remember Camaro was at my house. He was doing a remediation he was measuring all the Wi-Fi in here. And I live in an old house. I'm in the middle suite. There's a suite above me and a suite below me, and I don't have a router in here. He couldn't pick up anything in my house. I have 2 smart meters. And he went around and he goes, I'm not seeing anything in here. Well, the computer's running. So something's coming in here. Otherwise, this thing wouldn't be on. He came near my computer. I see I'm picking up a little bit around your computer. That's the reality of this. Like, but we got to tap into it. And I wasn't. He goes, it must be the prayers you're doing. I'm going, well, I didn't really pray. I got no explanation for it. But he was reading it, and he's like, well, I won't put words in his mouth. He says, I've never seen a place like this.
It's the frequency.
Yeah, totally the frequency.
Exactly. We operate at a higher frequency, and the other one can't overtake it unless we allow that to happen.
Exactly. And you're right about, yes, we are orgone generators.
They're scalar.
And
Yeah.
that's right. And then when you activate fully, not just the lower centers, but the upper centers too, and they meet at the heart center, and you know how to get into your physical heart from the back end, that's where, and activate your Christos oil from your pineal gland down to the root, and then ascend it back up, which is the ascension. People think, oh, ascension is floating up in a UFO. No, it's inside you. That's why we have to remain in the heart and in authenticity and in joy. Like when Q and I hang out, we turn into 2 young boys in a sandbox, but at the same time, we're looking at stuff and we're so curious. And I think our curiosity and our authenticity, while we're curious, while we're having our joy, while we're questioning, while we're saying, hey, who's accountable, right? It keeps our own selves accountable when we're questioning those that are harm. Am I harming someone? Are they harming someone? We can see it. And like you said, when you can see it, you can't unsee it anymore. That's when things change.
Right on. Good note to end on, Kumar. Thank you so much. So just want to say thank you, everyone, for being part of this call. Thank you to everyone out there watching. The call to action is this. I challenge you to do one of 2 things. The first is there's a link in the description below, or whomever sent you this video. Go there, sign up. $100 for the first year to become a member of InPower Movement. Do the notice of liability process. It literally is life-changing, as we've talked about here, and it's what can we say? It's potent, as we learned today. And the second thing is, if you're not ready to do that just yet, go to InPowerMovement.org, and you guys, Cal, have an option just to get on the mailing list, correct? Or is that only, yes, okay.
Nope,
So that's
you can get on a mailing list.
You can get on the mailing list and just tap into this wave, right? And then in the future, perhaps the timing isn't right now, but get connected and
yeah. So we send out a newsletter and kind of keep people, in the loop of what's happened, who stepped down, what's going on, and that kind of thing. So
once a month only. You guys need to send out more PR.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're on a volunteer basis, and there's only so much you can expect out of people, and so yeah, we everything we want to do what we can. We want to increase everything, but we got a lot of burners running. Like starting a crypto from nothing is, you don't do that every day.
Yeah, but you have people coming in that are helping with these different things, like you said, and all doing it together. So we invite you to be part of this, connect with Cal and his organization, InPowerMovement.org. And until next time, until next conversation, just be well and blessed, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Beautiful.